Thank you. So I'll give 2 minutes closing speeches for starting with Dr. Jasser.
I'd like to thank the organizers and for all of your attention and welcoming me into your community. And I want to leave you simply with a message of what will be our legacy for our children. And my legacy, I hope, is the fact that we leave ideas, that we leave books, and we leave writings behind, because those live beyond our years. We're not going to be there always for our children. We're not going to be here to give speeches and debates, but rather we're going to leave writings. So what will be left on the shelf for them to learn about their faith? And I think that's what you should ask about. When you hear about Islam being like every other faith, which I truly believe it is in my heart and in the practice, is it that way intellectually? Well, look at the books that come out of Al-Azhar. Look at the books that come out of Saudi schools. There is a group called the American Muslim Assembly of Jurists, AMJ Online, that gives fatwas for American Muslims about what they should do in society. A fatwa a month ago said they shouldn't join the FBI or join Homeland Security because they're going into, they're anti-Muslim and anti-Islamic. And most of us would disagree with that. Everybody here probably disagrees with that. But the bottom line is that these are the people writing fatwas, and most of the credentials of those scholars are Saudi-trained, Egyptian-trained at Al-Azhar. So we have a lot of repair work to do. We have a lot of intellectual, rugged scholarship to write. I'd like to hire imams in our organization. It's not just our organization. We formed an American Islamic Leadership Council that is looking to be an alternative from the Muslim Brotherhood groups like CARE and ISNA and MPAC and others that really are about Muslim collectivism. And for all of you, as you reach out to your Muslim neighbors and you look at how Christian Reformation happened, it happened from the bottom up. Yes, there was the Martin Luthers, etc., but it was the business community, the secular community that said that we were no longer going to let the church run society. And I think it's business leaders in the Muslim community that are going to do change. There are dissidents. We work with the Alliance of Iranian Women, which completely disagree with some of the things you heard here. We work with Sufi organizations, with a number of organizations that believe in Islam as a faith practice, but don't want it to be in government. And I think this is part of the diversity that I hope you leave with here, to look and see that there is a breadth of information and knowledge in the Muslim community.
What I see is that we live in the country which is called the home of the brave and the free. And it's lovely to practice the freedom that we have over here. It might not be nice to say it as it is, but it is a saying that talk is cheap. You have to show things by action. People come to us and say, why don't you condemn this and why don't you condemn that? How many times do you call black, black? You have to show it by action. We have a free clinic, which is in the Islamic Center, where all the Pakistani physicians and some Muslim physicians volunteer, and they treat everyone. We have, whether it's a Hispanic or anybody else, comes there and get treated free. One day in June, we had 48 clinics all over the United States that Pakistani physicians volunteered to treat people free. Over 2,000 people were treated free of charge. Now, we can sit and talk all the time and say this is wrong and that is wrong, but that takes away from doing the good stuff that we can do. And we had Muslim physicians go to Haiti. They work in Doctors Without Borders. They work in so many other ways to try and show that this is who we are and this is what we are taught. In Islam it says the ink of a scholar is holier than the blood of a martyr. And that if you save a life, you save humanity. This is what we follow. But this is not what the perception is out there. And most of all, I would say that, if we begin charity at home and each one of us as Muslim reaches out and helps and treats and does things for people around us, eventually people will realize that this is the true Muslim that we are living with. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, I agree. I think this is simple. What you've seen tonight, like I stated before, you got two ideas, and I want you to think about them. And absolutely, our view is simple. We do not need to change the Islam, or we do not need to change the Quran or the madhab or anything. We just need to follow it and understand it correctly. Now, what we're doing, according to the doctor, we're opening our doors. You want to understand about Islam? We're opening our doors. Our centers are open. We've been inviting people all over. We've been going to churches, we've been going to universities, we've been going to schools, and we've been presenting people with who we are. And we invite everybody to come and ask these questions, and we'll tell you. And the thing is, the difference between somebody in the street telling you than what we will be telling you, we will tell you this is the evidence. You know what? We have the Quran in English, you read it. You have the Sunnah in English, read it. You know you don't speak English, you speak Spanish, we have it in Spanish. You need Bosnian, we'll get you in Bosnian. We have it. And read it. You know in Islam, there are, the way how decisions are made. You know, it's not brainwashing in Islam. You know we have the Quran and we have the Sunnah. Then after that we have the Jama'ah. Then after that, you know what the first pillar of making a decision is what? Is ijtihad. It's yourself. It's you educating yourself. You know all these madahib the doctor just mentioned? You have, as a person, we are in Islam, we are obligated to use our mind and think and pick in a situation that wasn't specific for the ibadah and use our mind to make our decision what we think is best for us. There are certain things in Islam. Islam covered, it's a way of life, covered almost everything in life. But there are certain little aspect of it. You know what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the right. He encouraged us to think. He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the difference between you and the other creation is your mind. I mean, He's given us a mind we can say our way. We can say our way out. And what I'm saying is, you've heard a great dialogue today. And we heard a challenge that Muslim communities have. And we've had it, we're going through the same thing that the Jewish community in 2003 with the ADL, the anti-defamation of the scripture of the Old Testament. We're going through the same thing that the Catholic Church went through. We're all going through it. And that's but what? But the thing is, if you are interested, and if you want to understand it, and help us build a greater community for all of our kids, stop by, talk to us, we'll tell you. And we'll tell you the right and the complete truth.
In closing, the first thing I want to do is thank all of you for attending, because, yes, we thank the organizers, but without you being here, we would have a pretty empty message. So thank all of you for coming. The message that I have goes back to a global aspect. And one of my first questions was, before September 11th, how many of you ever met a Muslim, thought about it, engaged? And nearly half of you raised your hands and said, prior to September 11th, you had not met, engaged, or talked to a Muslim. And as I also stated, that since the early 50s, we've had numerous educational seminars, international events in Cedar Rapids about Islam, and they didn't have national attention because it wasn't on the focus. Now, it's a tragedy that brought this into aspect, just as Doctor said that, you know, what comes out of the Azhar or out of Saudi Arabia is a small element. What came out of Florida 3 weeks ago? What came out of Franklin Graham? Well, what Franklin Graham says and what Jones says in Florida, that doesn't represent Christianity. So to isolate and look out what comes out of a few speakers identified at the Azhar in Saudi Arabia is not the magnitude of the Islamic world. In closing, we have to keep in mind, as I told you, 50% of the world's population is under the age of 27 to 25. We are in a global economy. We have Muslim neighbors from in Iowa to the reaches of the world. We're coming close to Thanksgiving. How would you like to have pumpkin pie without cinnamon? How would you like to get up in the morning and not have coffee, tea, or cocoa, or black pepper? All of these commodities, and if you take the equator, and starting in Senegal and Nigeria, and go straight across to Malaysia, and go 20 degrees north and south of the equator, 85% of the hydrocarbons of the world are in that area. Phosphate, uranium, gold, diamonds, your spices that will never be grown in North America or Europe. So what we need to do is have global understanding, global trade, and get over these isolated individuals that are causing the fractions in our society and communities, because we will overcome it as a nation and globally. Islam has never been feared in the United States. It has not been a fear factor, and it has been a provider. Many of you know of former Governor Ray. He is the one that helped me initiate the sister state program with Malaysia, because there was never a sister state program with a Muslim country. And that brought us more than 10,000 Malaysian and Indonesian students to our schools that paid full tuition, and are now some of the leaders in their country. So let's look to that and look to a better future rather than the isolation of the few that are causing the trouble in our society. And thank you for coming. And As I said, when we open, Assalamu alaikum, and then when we close, we say, wa alaikum assalam. That means, may you go in peace, and thank you for being here.
Moderating such a crowd is not always easy, but it's always fun. I hope you enjoyed our panel today, that you learned something, that we gave you a food for thought, something to think about. My advice to every one of us is to try to learn for himself and decide for herself. Your mind is the best judgment for your decision. I thank you, and I wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.